To order. This is the April 20th, 2010 Garrett Hill Implementation Committee meeting. There we go. Please join me while I stand and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Committee members, members of the public, we have our agenda here. Are there any additions, deletions, concerns about the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, so we have our agenda here. Oh, thank you, Phil. Nancy, can I impose upon you to be our secretary for this evening since Jim is not with us? He may be here shortly. Okay, you ready? Okay, we have minutes before us. I've read over these minutes. These minutes are from our last meeting as a steering committee. That was January 19th, and I do believe these minutes are in order.
Motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have our approved minutes. Okay. Put this where that belongs. Announcements. I announced the Radnor Township zoning meetings. That's Thursday, 4/22, 7 p.m. here at the Township building. Pardon me, 7:30 here at the Township building. There's a Garrett Hill Community Enhancement Trust meeting. That is Saturday, the 24th, and that will be at 11 a.m. at the Radnor United Methodist Church. The BOC, our Board of Commissioners, will be meeting Monday. That's the 26th. That is at 7 p.m. at the Township building, here at the Township building. And Radnor Township Planning will be meeting Monday, that's May 3rd, and that is also 7 p.m. at the Township building. And there also will be a Garrett Hill Coalition fundraiser. Flowers, food, and flags. That will be held Saturday, May 8th at the Radnor United Methodist Church, and the time is yet to be determined exactly. But it will be in the morning. So those are our announcements. Report of officers is our next agenda item. Phil, with your permission, I'll go first. With resolution 2010-11, our Board of Commissioners has extended the Garrett Hill Steering Committee and given the committee the role of facilitating the implementation of our Garrett Hill Master Plan. The former steering committee is now known as the Garrett Hill Implementation Committee. The Board of Commissioners are seeking a 9th member for this committee. Interested parties should send a letter of intent and resume to Bill Martin here at the Township building to receive consideration. And the other item to report is that I believe that Sumath Joseph appeal is still pending at the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas and has not yet been scheduled. That's what I have for a report. As the chair, do you have a report?
No real report, but perhaps I might just mention that in time for the last Garrett Hill Coalition annual meeting, we had prepared the formal cover for the Garrett Hill Master Plan, and that the insides had not changed since it was adopted in July of 2008. However, it is formalized with the cover on it and some acknowledgments that were worked out. And if anyone would like a copy, they should probably contact you, Rick, is that right?
Yeah, Garrett Hill Master Plans are available. Please contact myself or my wife Patty, 610-525-1025. 1250.
And the reason that I mention it now is simply because as we move ahead into the implementation phase of the Garrett Hill Master Plan, this is a very important document for us because a lot, if not all, of the work that we want to do is embodied in here based on the workshops and all the other community inputs that we've had prior to that July '08 adoption.
And we will be focusing specifically on what I believe is called the action plan, which is in the last section, the implementation strategy and the action plan, which starts at page 49. So these are available, 610-525-1250, or by email, damoca3@verizon.net. damoca3@verizon.net. In conjunction with that, Phil, there's one thing I actually forgot to mention. I didn't have my notes, but the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission, which was the agency that actually provided the funding for the grant that enabled this rezoning process, the Garrett Hill Master Plan and Garrett Hill rezoning, the Garrett Hill zoning district, is conducting a Route 30 corridor study. And they also have an interactive map on their website, which you can go and enter comments. They will also be conducting further public meetings. There was a public meeting held in this room not long ago, but they will be holding a series of additional public meetings. Sometime in May is the last time that you can actually make an entry on their interactive map, but you can include comments, and at the end of the meeting I'll see if I can actually find the web address, but you could Google the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, and I'm sure come up with the Route 30 corridor study and find the interactive map that way also. So thank you for that, Phil. Reports of working groups. We have, I don't know if I have it in my notes here. It's actually in our minutes. Okay, we have arrived at 6 working groups. They are the grants and funding. These are out of the master plan. Grants and funding, including the Garrett Hill Community Enhancement Trust, gateways, crosswalks, and the Rock Slope Park improvements, streetscape, facade improvements, Route 100 station. That's actually one category. Streetscapes, the facade improvements, Route 100 station. Parking strategy is the 5th, and the consideration of historic preservation and/or design criteria. And right now we'll take a brief report from the chair of each working group. Nancy, can I ask you to say something about the status of the grants and funding and the Garrett Hill Community Enhancement Trust?
Sure. We're happy to report that the Garrett Hill Community Enhancement Trust is now a genuine 501c3, and we got our letter from the IRS, and we have an employer identification number. We're really official. We have one bit of activity. I think, Sarah, do you mind speaking on the grant that you and Paula Rebeck have, because I think you'll get the details right.
Yes, we're looking at the possibility of applying for a WREN grant, which is Watershed Recovery, that's given by the League of Women Voters. It can be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. I've been reading the guidelines. It's more about providing education, and which is perfectly valid. I have asked a member of our community who has a close connection with the League of Women Voters to find out if a demonstration project could be included in that, which meant we could illustrate a no-mow line at Macrone Park. But I'm waiting for feedback as to whether this was all education or not. We need some partners. The Radnor Conservancy is very interested. I think that the EAC might be interested. Paul Overbeck through the Academy of Natural Sciences. He works with Ruth Patrick's group, which is freshwater. So there's a good possibility that in the spring of 2011, we would submit this grant proposal.
So I guess you mentioned that the trust will have a meeting on Saturday, and other than that, we're trying to hone in on some priorities and cast a wide net. I don't know, John, do you want to talk about state money? Because that's not the trust's business, but it's money for Garrett Hill.
I guess I don't have anything to add at this moment, but
We'll repeat what
we
was
do
in the
have
email.
we have a $10,000 grant from from Greg Vitale that we were awarded last year, and that money is earmarked for the rock slope area. But I'll be glad to help. Try to get funding for this enhancement trust to do good projects in the district. So.
It's, that part is a little amorphous still. Focus on priorities, scan for what's available, and try to mesh.
Yeah, I think we should just take a good look at all the state grants that are available and the federal grants and
Great.
work on that. So, thanks.
Anybody have any question?
Yeah, I have a question, Nancy, and this will probably be something that you guys will consider as you have your meetings, and perhaps you'll consider it when you have your next meeting. Since a lot of the other working groups will end up looking for funding out of the Garrett Hill Enhancement Community Trust, is there a venue or a way that people from those working groups can have access and help you look for grants? I mean, that shouldn't be that shouldn't have to be your thing completely, but is there a way that we can, from the sidelines, participate in that and try to kind of step up that process for you?
I hope people come to our meetings or just call us, because our meetings are not that frequent. I mean, the same idea has occurred to me. Say, for example, if we look for money to help us put gateway signs up, and some other committee's working on what is the shape, what are the requirements for gateway signs, and what is the cost, we really need to interact, and we don't need to duplicate efforts and research. So I think maybe we need to but probably we just need to talk to each other or have the different committee members come to our meeting. Probably just communicate, because I think it's a quarterly meeting. So whenever you have something up.
One of the things that I do, Phil, as you know, is when I get an email and I notice that other people have not been copied on it, I like to copy all the steering committee members so everyone's aware of what others' efforts are, because there's considerable overlap, and particularly in this area. The funding for this, of course, applies to every other group that needs capital, which is every other group. So it's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up, and I will again endeavor to make sure that all steering committee members and interested parties are copied on any emails to facilitate that type of communication. It's important.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate the idea that we can be reactive to that and certainly work in conjunction and communicate. But I really want to see if we can take it a step further. Is there something that we can do to be proactive? I mean, essentially, I guess what Nancy, in one form, what I'm asking is there a database, or how are you looking for this? Is there some source that we can tap into to kind of put another set of eyes on there? Because in order to help you, so that you don't have to just be the only people that can find these things.
I would start with the Joe Sestak resources. I mean, he produced the book, but I think it's accessible online. And those are the state focused one. I mean, he covers all of federal and the state and the local. That's where I start. Other than that, you can look around and see it's real good to look around and see what other townships have done and where they've succeeded and how they succeeded. Whether they're going after federal, municipal, maybe John.
Let me comment on this. Last year, Superintendent John Ruddy and his department filed they applied for $2 million in funding for Garrett Hill. So let's not forget the township has resources. Maybe we help the township prepare for grant applications by just identifying the grants, maybe providing information they need to file the grants. But let's not forget the township does have the resources available to do this. But I think, you know, it's a team effort. I think if we work together, we can really start putting applications in numbers. And, you know, if you put enough in, eventually you get some money. And don't forget, you know, just an example is the Friends of the Willows Cottage was awarded $250,000 this past year. That was not expected, you know, but there you go. The first application they applied for, they got. So let's not miss opportunities that way, and let's take advantage of everyone that's being able to help in this process.
Right.
Yeah, the Garrett Hill Community Enhancement Trust and its activities in the master plan, I'm sure we'll be coordinating efforts with the township, and likely there will be matching funds required in any event. So.
Yeah, I had John Ruddy's letters here somewhere. I can't find them, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't it make sense for him to go back again, sometimes second, third time you get?
Well, John Ruddy has retired.
Right, I mean,
But
not John.
our staff can certainly reapply for those grants. I think it would be a good thing to do would be to meet with staff and maybe have a brainstorming session about this topic and see what resources are there. Maybe community development can work on it with us. Sometimes they hire interns over the summers. Maybe we can get some extra resources that way. I think at this point we need to, I think it would be helpful for your committee to help sift through the thousands of grants that are available and find the ones that are most appropriate. Maybe there's only 10 out of 1,000 that are appropriate, and then they're the ones we focus on, and collectively work on those. And I think if we keep pushing, we can also invite our representatives to our meetings. We could have you could ask Greg Vitale or Joe Sestak to come out to one of your meetings and see what's going on, and maybe that's a good way to get a little more focus on the issue. Dalen Leach, anyone that's involved in that district. So, you know, try everything and see what happens.
Can I add a point? The Resource Center at the Philadelphia Free Library on Logan Circle is an extraordinary resource. They have a database of all the foundations in the United States, and you put in your criteria, and it helps to sift through what you're looking for. You just take your memory stick with you, and you download the information you need onto your memory stick, and off you go, and it's free to all residents of Philadelphia and they give workshops, free workshops from time to time on how to search databases, how to write grant proposals. It's just a fabulous resource. Rick Yulo and I went to 2 of their workshops, and the second one we went to, there were only 3 of us there, so we picked this woman's brains. The other person is Greg Vitale, again, was it last summer? I hate to think. Maybe it was last spring that Rick and I went to a workshop that Greg Vitale gave. And at that time, they had Main Street funding. And not only did we gain information, but we got to know the people who were instrumental in that, and they were all for Garrett Hill. They knew Garrett Hill. Some of them had lived at Chetwynd Radnor House, and they felt that we were absolutely perfect. Then, of course, the money dried up. But the state of Pennsylvania ever finds itself with some resources, there are friends out there who will help us. We just have to do the legwork.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to now segue into the gateways, crosswalk, and rock slope. Jerry, do you have anything to add as far as a working group report?
Really nothing to report right now. We're just really getting organized, seeing where, with Bob, and seeing where we're going to try and, what direction we're going to go in first to see what we accomplish. I know John has a I just found out about this. A meeting tomorrow morning.
Not officially. I have a meeting with Matt Bauman and Dan Malloy concerning some rezoning in the area. But during that meeting, I plan to, we've been kind of conversing via email over the rock slope issue over the last week. Bill Martin and I have been discussing issues. We're trying to get it moving again. Keep in mind, 2 years ago, I wrote a draft proposal, and I started reaching out to various groups. I reached out to Bill Thomas at Chanticleer, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. I had a lot of volunteers lined up. What I didn't have was funding. I spoke with Greg Vitale, and then magically some funding showed up. So, but of course, in the interim, we had the issues in the township concerning the manager, and that really caused us to lose focus. We also changed our solicitor, who was instrumental in getting involved in negotiating rights of
Controlling
what they
interest.
call a controlling interest on the spillway property, the rock slope property. We have restarted that process. Our solicitor, John Rice, is now in talks with SEPTA, and I imagine at some point with PICO, because PICO has a transmission tower on that slope. Anyway, where I'm headed right now, I think, is just trying to see what we can do without having a controlling interest, i.e., what can we do within the easement along this cartway. So there may be an opportunity to do some work along the roadside, maybe planting small trees or shrubs or something to help beautify that area. But we have to think long term too, what the big project would be, and we don't want to plant something that would have to be dug up in the process of doing the rest of the work. So at this point, I will be meeting with staff tomorrow over some other issues, and I will be discussing the rock slope. Anyone is welcome to come over to the township building tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. for that. But what I hope to do is kind of assemble a picture of where we're at with everything, and then share that with your committee in hopes that we can, kind of see opportunities and then start moving on those. The funding from Greg Vitale is set to expire end of June, but we have, I have a call into his office to find out if that money, that grant can be extended through the end of the year, and if not, what can we do with it? There may be a case where that money could be put into the enhancement trust. So we'd have to discuss that with
Exactly.
him. So if we, if we have to get the money into the right place, that might be a way to do it. But so there are a lot of questions still, and I feel bad because we had gotten some motion on this. I had a large meeting out at that site it's about a year and 3 months ago. There were about 8 of us out there. There were 5 staff members, and we had representatives from SEPTA and PICO present, attorneys as well as engineers. And we walked the entire site. We really got a good sense of what was going on there. We got an enthusiastic thumbs up on doing some work there from both parties. Their mindset is if someone wants to come in and help them beautify their land, they're very supportive of that, and especially if it has something to do with non-point stormwater treatment. They're very interested in that. So that was kind of the flavor of where I was headed with the original plan. However, we don't really have enough time with this current money to do that big plan, and we don't have enough money either. But hopefully we'll get something started, and that'll get people more interested. We'll see some activity there, and maybe we'll get some more energy around it as well.
Yeah, I'm just concerned. I am concerned about the $10,000 because you know the history of this, like anybody else. It's every commissioner runs on the preface that they're going to do something with this rock slope, and they think it's an easy process, and it's not. I mean, we've been going through it. We've had the money, we've lost the money. We've had the money, we've lost the money. So it's been a lot of years of this. So at this point, if we do have this $10,000, it would be nice to be able to hold on, or just go out and buy the trees and we'll plant them, and
Sure.
or do something like that, like you said.
Well, that's what we need to know, and I should have the answers to some of those questions by Friday. My hope is to have word back from from the solicitor, find out where he's at. And also, the other thing that happened during the last 2 years is that we actually surveyed the land. We were able to get SEPTA was willing to waive their access permit. They have a $1,000 fee in order just to gain access to do any type of site work. We were able to get them to waive that fee, and then the township paid for a civil engineer to go out and survey that entire property. We have official survey drawings now of that property, which we didn't even have before. So some things have happened, some good things have happened, and really what we're looking for now is getting that controlling interest from SEPTA. And what that looks like is probably like a $1 a year lease, probably for 50 years or 100 years, that would basically grant the township the right to access that property and maintain it. And then once we have that right, we can then apply for some PICO grants to do beautification. They have grants just for this type of project. And those grants, I think, are in the tens of thousands of dollars. So there's a lot of money there. And then once we have controlling interest, then all the grant opportunities open up. So right now, we can't apply for money unless we have controlling interest.
Right. No, I think your last meeting you had was one of the closest we were. It seemed like we were right there, and, you know, of course, things happen, but that was at least, we were close.
Yeah, it was good to see something happen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But it is, I don't think, I think projects like this can take 10 years, but we don't have to wait 10 years. We can do them a little bit at a time and
Right.
chisel away at the issue.
Thanks, John.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm going to move on to park improvements. Betty Lou Norsini is the chair of this working group, along with Lee Turner. She is not here. She did plan to attend the meeting, and I am not prepared to provide a report per se. However, I can say that as I've collected correspondence in these various working groups, the park improvement file folder is the thickest. It has generated the most interest. I think it has generated the largest group of people who are interested in participating. Again, I think this is one of the most exciting areas we have in Garrett Hill. Of course, those that remember the inception remember how important the parks were initially as part of this process. And some of the things that I'm hoping to have facilitated in the near future is to reestablish the riparian buffer at Clemacrone Park, and also to begin to establish some sort of program that would address replacing the heritage or specimen trees that we have in both Clemacrone and Emlyn Tunnel. We have some very large trees there. I believe we lost, did we lose two? I know we lost at least one large, I believe it was an oak tree this winter at Clemacrone. So it is important to start to somehow, plant trees that we can at one time, become the specimen trees that we enjoy now. Hopefully that was close enough to English for people to understand. Exciting things happening at the parks. And there is a nascent, but nevertheless a dedicated group of people who are calling themselves the Friends of Garrett Hill Parks. And we also have welcomed Paul Overbreck, who has taken a leadership role, particularly at Clemacrone. And he is now the vice chair of the Garrett Hill Coalition, and we look forward to enjoying, the synergy of his efforts as well. I'll move on to streetscapes, facade improvements, and Route 100 station. Phil, that's your bailiwick as a chair of that working group.
Thanks, Rick. I can report that we have not done much at this point, primarily because a lot of this is going to require funding, which we are just getting our feet wet on, getting our sea legs on that one with the Garrett Hill Enhancement Trust. As people will remember from the workshops or the other meetings that we've had, in most cases, we're not looking to the township for this, and this is not something that even the property owners will end up doing, but we're looking for grants and other funding sources to help beautify the goals, kind of to beautify and enhance the two kind of crossroad districts there on Garrett Avenue and Conestoga Road. At this point, you know, you really have, just to paint a picture of a vision of reminding us what we envisioned when we had the workshops, it really kind of broken down to kind of short range, short-term projects, all the way up to long-term things. The short-term could be even 1 to 3 or 4 years that had to do with perhaps some landscaping and perhaps some planters and street trees, and hopefully we were optimistic about getting some pedestrian level lighting and some facade improvement, because I know that there were, we were told, some grants out there that we could use to improve the facades of anybody who wanted that to happen if we get the money. Some of the long-term effects are which may even take 10 years, as John was saying, to go ahead and do. We're very ambitious, but these are part of our vision as also, and that had to do with improving the crosswalks to give a sense of community, especially at the either sides of the parks and the gateways to the Garrett Hill District, as well as the crossroads there, in a way that obviously fits PennDOT's requirements as well as the needs of the community. Also as ambitious is perhaps the idea of someday burying the electric cables and telephone poles to kind of do what has been done in other areas of Radnor Township and make it a little bit more walkable and get some more sidewalks up there too. So it's very ambitious things to do. We were looking for funding. In part, that's why I asked Nancy about what things that we can do to be helpful to identify those things in a lot of respects that I think we're going to need to do at the outset. I will say that we're looking for more people to help us work in this area, whether it's just to help us find the funding, or also once the funding is there or when identified, to kind of help prioritize some of these projects or to get them off the ground. So we, as a entire committee, we welcome anyone in the area, in the Garrett Hill community, especially the business and property owners who are on the Conestoga and Garrett Avenue streets, to join with us and help make this a reality, the vision that we had.
Thanks, Phil. I could also just add that the grant that John Ruddy applied for was for Garrett Avenue, and it was for sidewalk improvement.
Right.
And it was, again, it was a transportation grant. And also the Route 100 station, that is also part of the Route 30 corridor study that the DVRPC is conducting. And I made sure that they had copies of our master plan. And, you know, I'll try to synopsize and let them know, you know, what is in our master plan with relation, and, you know, with regard to the transportation angle that they, you know, mandate focuses on.
As far as the Route 100 station improvements are concerned, just remind us of some of the things that we had identified in the workshops. And some of them were probably more closer term than others, but actually to repair some of the railings that are down there, to make it a little bit safer to walk down to those steps in there, and to reconstruct some of these paths who've been chewed up over time from the winters and everything else. So some of them were actually on a short-term list of things to do. I was encouraged when they did have the DVRPC had their meeting here a few weeks ago to talk about that Route 30 corridor study, that they did identify some of these places, and perhaps it gave encouragement that we might be able to find some money to do some of these short-term projects on that 100 station, even if it's just a matter of installing bicycle racks or something like that to get things going. And then the ultimate goal was to replace the shelter with something that was more transparent, like they've done up at the Gulf Mills station there, so that improve the safety and lighting of what's down there as well. So there's a lot of the plate to do. It all needs money, but I think there may be some fallout, although they don't view that station as a very heavily used station, but still there's enough work that probably needs to be done that we can get on their radar scope if we continue to push for that.
And just as a reminder too, when I talked to SEPT at the beginning of this process, I said, how do you decide which communities get improvements? And they said, well, generally, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If communities come together and they ask for it, they tend to get the priority. So we have
squeak, squeak.
It's time to squeak. So should I continue now?
Go ahead.
The working group that I am heading up is the Parking Strategy Working Group. There's permit parking, employee parking, shared parking, and municipal parking, all mentioned in our master plan. The one that actually we might be able to affect in the short term is exploring whether expanding permit parking makes sense in Garrett Hill. When this first came up, others who were more knowledgeable about this were not very hopeful about this. They felt that it had been explored before, but it's been asked for us to take a second look at it. Now, I met with A.J. Antonini, the officer in charge of our police department, and discussed exploring the expansion of permit parking in Garrett Hill. And he suggested as a first step that we educate the community about the possibilities, and the possibilities are limited due to the various statutes involved, but nevertheless, educate about the possibilities and the issues that are involved. And he's offered to come and speak to our group, specifically with regard to permit parking. And I plan to check with the folks that indicated they were interested in permit parking and proceed from there. I imagine it might be useful to invite Officer Antonini to one of our upcoming steering committee meetings, either in, I believe it is, July or October. And one of the things that I just want to make sure everyone understands is that we have to be careful when we talk about expanding permit parking. We have to be very careful of unintended consequences. If there's one thing that everyone in the community agreed upon at the outset was that we shouldn't do anything that would make the parking worse. So we have to make sure that if we do take some steps, that they will in fact be improvements. And that's my report from the Parking Strategy Working Group. And then Phil, you're chairing up for us. I'm also on the Historic Preservation and Design Criteria Working Group. We are again considering historic preservation. Does it make sense for a section of Garrett Hill or sections of Garrett Hill and/or design criteria? So Phil, if you could just say a few sentences about the current status of that effort.
Sure, I'll be glad to. As you said, part of our master plan asked us to look and have some consideration of what we might do in terms of historic preservation, if it made sense, where it might be. And to that end, we've had several meetings as a working group based on that, that I think have been very useful. The committee that's working with it at this moment are people, Patty Barker's been part of that, almost taking a lot of lead in terms of calling the meetings. Yourself, myself, Nancy, Sarah, and members of the Radnor Township Implementation Committee, Steve Palantonio,
and Cheryl
Tamula, as well as Beverly Barnes and others who have a very strong expertise in this area. So we've been grateful to her and her expertise on this. And to that end, we've explored a couple of options that may be useful. We've done a lot of studying about what's possible in the state of Pennsylvania, what other communities have done, and I think we've identified a couple areas that will bear fruit perhaps at some point, but at least we have the beginning stages of what might happen in terms of a light touch of historic preservation that may be possible here. We started with, have met with some residents on the
Beechwood Drive.
Beechwood Drive, I'm sorry.
Which also includes the Radnor United Methodist Church.
That's correct.
It could form a district with a boundary.
And that would be a nice, interesting start. The residents that we met with, who were the majority of people from those areas, were enthusiastic about the idea because they wanted to protect what they had, and they saw the benefits in some of that. So we're exploring that. It's very baby steps. Nothing has been done at all in terms of
decision making.
Decision making. There you go. Thank you very much. But we're exploring it, and it looks some exciting that there may be some things that we can do in this area that may be worthwhile and that would benefit and be accepted by the people that are involved.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Jerry. Jerry's got to go. We'll miss your motion, Jerry, but we'll make it without you. That actually concludes the reports from our working groups. Again, most of these efforts are nascent right now. We have a charge to help facilitate the Garrett Hill Master Plan, and also to report annually to the commissioners about our recommendations to, again, realize the Garrett Hill Master Plan. And I think our charge actually brings us to 2013. So we have a few more years ahead of us. We will be meeting quarterly. And I'll announce right now that our next Garrett Hill Implementation Committee meeting is Tuesday, July 20th, and there is another Garrett Hill Implementation Committee meeting scheduled for October 19th. These are the third Tuesdays of the month. So July 20th, October 19th, both Tuesdays, 7 p.m. at the Township Building. So I'll ask Phil and Nancy if there's any other unfinished business.
Yeah, if I could, I'd just like to make one quick comment, and that is this. As you started to allude to, I think we have made some progress in the beginning, just the first few months of what we've done to get things off the ground. We have a wonderful, wonderful blueprint. That's the Garrett Hill Master Plan. I'll show it one more time because I like it, the cover on it. But this is a wonderful blueprint, which I'll remind us we've spent many, many, many hours as a community to put together. And that is our blueprint. There's not one man's or one woman's opinion about what should be done. This is what we had decided as we're moving forward to.
So the result of a true community effort. There's
Absolutely.
no question about that.
And look, as realities dictate, things may end up changing as we have to do it. But these are the kinds of things in the direction of where we want to go. The other point is just that as you remembered or as you recalled, our charge is a 3-year charge. So we have a time limit on this. They can obviously extend it, but we want to have a sense of urgency of what we want to do, which does not mean that we want to rush into anything, but we want to get started with things, and so we are. To that end, I want to extend our call because we would like to widen the circle. We do not see this as something that 8 or 9 people up here are the ones that are going to do this. The time for deliberation has passed. Now is the time for action to try to implement the things that we all had a common vision about. So for those who are watching, I'll extend again our invitation to please join us as part of these working groups. There is no sense of seniority. We're all rolling up our sleeves to do what we can to do it, and we welcome anyone who has an interest or expertise in any one of these areas to especially the residents and business and property owners who will be mostly affected, to be part of this, to help shape it and to help make it happen.
Again, if anybody provides me with their email address or telephone number, and my phone number again is 610-525-1250, or email at damoca3@verizon.net. If you let me know what interest area you have, I'll make sure that you have the contact information for the chair and know how and when to participate in the interim efforts and whatever meeting venues take place between our regularly scheduled televised meetings. Any other new business? Okay, public participation?
I just wanted to remind you that we did collect names at the Garrett Hill Coalition Community Meeting on April the 8th, which you have in front of you. So just to make sure that, I just want to let the people know who did volunteer already that we do have their names and phone numbers and email addresses, and they will be passed on to each working group and will be apprised of your interim meetings that you just referred to. And that, yes, we are looking for additional people, but I want to thank all those who did sign up and express interest in many instances, more than one group. We really appreciate that. And I also want to encourage a Garrett Hillian to apply for the 9th position on the Garrett Hill Implementation Committee. I feel, as the chair of the Garrett Hill Coalition, that it would be in our best interest, Garrett Hill's best interest, if the entire committee is comprised of Garrett Hillians. With the Board of Commissioners making the appointment, they can appoint anyone from Radnor Township, and I'm not totally opposed to that, but ideally, I would love to see another Garrett Hillian. So I would like to encourage, in particular, business owners, people who live and/or work within the
zoning district.
zoning district. Thank you.
I'll just echo that. There is a ninth position available. The Board of Commissioners does not specifically express this, but I think they would be happy if there was representation from within the district or from the business community. So we're hoping for that. Again, send your letter of intent and resume to Bill Martin here at the Township Building. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the entire implementation committee, I'll call you now, for all the efforts over the past 3 years, I'm going to say. The Board of Commissioners and the staff have already expressed their thanks to all of you. I think in nominating you for the implementation committee, they're saying that we have a lot of faith and trust and respect for everything that the committee has done so far. But I took it a step further, and I put together some thank yous, and I'll just hold this up. I have distributed these to all the implementation committee members. This is Rick Yulo's. I'm going to ship this to him tomorrow. But I wanted to do this. I don't want this to be seen as a political thing. This was really a personal thing. In fact, this wasn't from the township at all. It was really just from me as a person and as a commissioner. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone recognizes, on the committee, recognizes that we do, in fact, appreciate everything that you've done. This was the most incredible effort that I've ever seen in my life around a community. You know, even and in the township, another way to look at this, sometimes I forget that we are really the only community that has a zoning district and a master plan other than the Wayne Business Overlay District. And that's a huge accomplishment. And it really helps the future. And I hope, you know, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, people can look back and say, oh yeah, that group of people that did this, you know, that spent all this time to help this get done. Assuming we do good things, they'll be saying that. And I think we've, you know, this group has, the steering committee, the implementation committee has done a lot of great things in the past 2 years, and I'm really excited to see that you've been able to band back together and focus on this effort. So from me to you, thank you very much again. And I hope to help you and assist you and help the township focus on these areas over the next couple of years. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for your acknowledgement, and thank you for your support. And I'd just like to say that again, that there are far too many people to thank in the community for this effort. And everyone that I've become acquainted with and aware of throughout this process has contributed something important, something timely. Some have put in maybe more hours than others, but I think that everyone has been very significant in their participation throughout this process. And I'd like to, again, extend my thanks to the community for, you know, coming together and making this all happen. And I am looking forward to this new phase, the implementation phase. I think it presents a lot of exciting possibilities, and I think that it'll be fun. So thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public participation?
I forgot one important piece. I just wanted to announce that the Garrett Hill Coalition Cookbook is available, A Taste of Garrett Hill. Oh, hang on just a minute.
Maybe we can get the camera on this, dear.
The camera's on it right here. This is what it looks like. Talk about a community effort. We have about 130 recipes contributed by members of the community, business, property owners, residents. We have a sort of a Why a Garrett Hill cookbook page. We have a picture of the Rosemont School, a page on the history of Garrett Hill. We have a page that lists all of our local Garrett Hill businesses with addresses, phone numbers, and emails. Then we have all of our recipes, and at the back we also have a number of our business community members took ads to help us pay for the cost of printing this cookbook. So again, truly a community effort. If you are interested in having one for your very own, you can make a donation of $10 to the Garrett Hill Coalition, and you can contact me. And let's give our phone number out for the 5th time tonight, 610-525-1250. We will also make them available. They'll be at the May 8th fundraiser. They'll probably be around somewhere at the 4th of July parade. We're going to have an ice cream social again on June 21st. So the cookbook will be around and available. But I do hope all of you take advantage of keeping one of these in your kitchen, because there's a lot of great recipes. So again, $10 donation to help defray all of the expenses we incurred during the Garrett Hill zoning district process.
And that's a donation to the Garrett Hill Coalition.
Correct. Anyway, thank you.
Any other public participation? Okay, let's have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.